flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Okay, short meeting planned for tonight. We'll get to our business quickly, then we'll do public comment, because I know a few people have some things. The first thing is special town meeting warrant. We have before us a warrant which has two articles. One, do we need to read these fully or not?
Nope, since you guys approved them on the warrant last week, everything should just be okay to,
Okay.
approve the warrant as written, and then you can make a motion.
So we have a warrant for Tuesday, the 15th day of March, 2022 at 6:30 PM, which this will be, we decided at Ruggles Lane, is that correct? Or at the high school?
It's the high school.
At the high school, this will be at the high school cafeteria. Article 1 is wastewater treatment facility, request for a $6.5 million bond. And Article 2 is for mechanical services for fire apparatus ladder 1.
That's $20,000.
Which is $20,000, yes. I look for a motion to approve the warrant and have it posted.
So moved.
Second.
Motion is second to approve this warrant as it's listed, written, and have it posted. Any further discussion on that?
No.
Hearing none, I'll call for vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye? Okay, that takes care of part one. Part two, police chief job description. We're not going to vote on this tonight. I want to take time for everyone to just look over that. We're basically going to be posting the chief of police position so that we can formally hire for a permanent full-time, as instead of an interim as we have now. It's our expectation that the interim chief will apply for the full-time spot, because we will post it internally first for 2 weeks, is our town policy to generally do. I would presume the chief will be one of our applicants. It will probably go that direction, but we will follow procedure and post it. But we'll discuss that next week at our meeting, because we want to have a chance to read through it before we vote on it tonight. Springhill Broadband MOU. I've read it. Dr. Marshall's satisfied?
Yes, and I believe our attorney has read it, Jessica?
Yes, everything looks satisfactory.
And Dylan, you set with that? I
Yep.
look for a motion to vote on signing the MOU.
So moved.
Second.
Motion is second to sign the MOU to proceed with the broadband up on, by Matrix. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 And that is the end of the official business we have on here for this evening. So I would take a public comment period. Matt?
Hey, Maureen, would you toss me one of those pens, if you don't mind? Thank you.
Yeah, so I'm just here to provide a couple comments for consideration when working through your video camera.
Yes.
I recall you discussed it, I think it was last week, use Zoom as an interim until you can get in some hardware installed in other places, etc. The two concerns, only because I haven't heard about it, doesn't mean it's not happening, is a written policy of your expectations of what actually will be captured in the video. Because I've seen Zoom before where someone just turns Zoom on and it's pointed at a wall. I'm on Zoom, I'm recording it, you can hear it. Well, that isn't really the gist of it. So that policy of what you actually want to make sure is happening. And then second, training on how to use Zoom, or how to deal with, kind of like today, you had the minor issue with the account just not working, the link not working. You have a lot of committees, boards, commissions in this town that do not have administrative assistants. And so I think without having something that really clarifies how they can still meet this bylaw using Zoom may need to be provided. So I'm just suggesting that a policy and training, or potentially even resources. Because one of the things I've been thinking about is, and this is a bigger picture, but the town really needs another person in the town administrator's office to deal with your public relations. Helping support all of these Zoom meetings is one thing that could probably take up almost half of a full-time person's job. But also we've been talking about how can we really maximize our footprint on Facebook. how, if we did put a digital sign on the commons, who's gonna be the one updating the words and the statements and the things we want said? That type of stuff is just gonna bog down your town administrator's office. But it's critical to really getting a proper communication between your town and your town government. So I think that might be something that really would be important in how you view this and where you're looking to go, even with maybe next year's budget, is maybe you can get a 40,000 or 35,000 a year person that can put in 30 hours a week to do this. And this is what you're hiring them to do, and most of it is that digital understanding of how to deal with that. So I just wanted to put that out. Policy, training, and more the need would be personnel.
Thank you. We did discuss briefly a couple times over the years where we wanted to possibly do cameras. We came up with the sites for upstairs. Nah, I hate when I do that. Upstairs in the room where the
Youth center side? The big
no,
one?
the where
Planning
the
board?
planning board meets.
Oh, right in the small one.
In the small room. That would be one, probably one in the old town hall would be two in the senior center, one in the main room, one in the larger side room, and one down at DPW. So we talked about setting up all these sites. The way this special town meeting went, if you followed any of the other meetings, we don't have free cash yet, we don't have the Chapter 90 funds. Chapter 90 funds were set up in September, came back here, they were bounced for something like $39 being in the wrong account on one of the things. The fix that our Chapter 90 people said we could do, the account wasn't comfortable with, sent the whole thing back to redo. In the interim, between September and October, they changed the accounting system as to how you file for Chapter 90 funds. As of a week and a half ago, we finally got the new paperwork, the new forms through, so we can just start filing again. So those funds should finally be here, probably not before a meeting, but we've had no free cash for town meeting. The only way
These
we,
all the Chapter 90 requests that go back to last fiscal year?
Yes.
Last April?
yes,
Okay.
yes. So, nonetheless, no free cash. Our free cash is held up until Chapter 90 is done. So now we're looking at the special town meeting and say, where are we gonna fund this stuff? I don't wanna be putting a bunch of stuff on going to stabilization, because you know I'm against that. I don't wanna drain down ARPA, but some of the things we wanted to do, we did out of ARPA. We put off this issue, just because we didn't know what it was. But as far as the cameras went, we didn't have a solid price what it's gonna cost to set them all up. We're pretty sure those are the good 6 places to do it, but it's probably gonna be, I would guess, $5,000 to $10,000 facility to do it. So we could spend $50,000, $60,000. That's gonna have to be something to go, first of all, get the price solid and go to town meeting, let the town decide how invested they wanna be in this. So we thought that from now until June, there's a good chance, I think we said April 1st or 15th, we said we have to start recording. We made a deadline at town meeting. Zoom can start, and there's gonna be hiccups, there's gonna be problems, but as you know, we made no repercussions for it. There's no penalty phase to that bylaw. So hopefully everyone will make a good faith effort and try to get things going. It's gonna take some time to smooth it out. When we get to June, we'll see how we're standing. Do we need to get these facilities up and running for recordings? Do we keep going with Zoom? How does the town wanna go with it, rather than us just do it? If they're happy with Zoom and they're happy with what's getting produced, then we leave it alone. If they're not happy and they want to make some penalty phase, then we try to figure out what that might be. If they want to do more recordings, we figure that out. But I think from now to June's a good chance to try to get it going. Jessica and Sandy will help everyone where they need help to set them up and show them how to use it. Anybody can always come in here and do it and have it set up for them when they come here. Make every effort we can. Whether or not we want to hire a person to do this full time, I don't think so.
Well,
No,
I-
there's a lot
I-
more as mentioning this person should be doing for the town as
Right,
well.
but
If I could just comment, I couldn't agree with you more, Matt. I think it's the fact that we could have a policy, we talked at our last meeting about having every board designate a person so that we could meet, in a subcommittee kind of situation. We didn't have to post every meeting to try to gear down and say, what do we really need? What is the expertise of people? I do agree with you that we're very personnel shy when we try to expand the responsibilities and obligations of already, people who are volunteering their time. So I agree with you on that. As far as public relations, there's no question that we don't do a very good job on that. I'm not criticizing anybody, it's just that right now it's just nobody's special job. And your comments about, maybe we should consider, doing a better job by adding some personnel to do it. I spend most of my life on Zoom and WebEx. And, because I'm set up at home for my stuff, it's really easy for me to do. However, tonight was a little bit, obviously, we took around a little bit. And I know that if Jessica were here, like you point out, if somebody is used to the system, that's great. But if the board doesn't have anybody who has that expertise, or we didn't provide training, that's a problem. And so I agree with, your comments and hope that, we can, as we, had a very interesting conversation about 2 weeks ago. Well, this was only a week ago, because we were meeting an additional meeting, that, we agree, I agree, at least that some of this stuff needs to be done. And what is the objective? Is it that we have, recorded meetings that are available for 6 months? I mean, the written record is what is mandated by law. But that we would have available to go on YouTube and see it for 6 months and then we dump it off or whatever. I can't imagine that people spend a lot of time watching selectmen's meetings, but I've been wrong before. So that being said, I thank you for coming here and I thank you for giving us some of that direction. I think it is important and I hope that maybe you'll be a volunteer.
I'd be more than one.
Thank you.
You got it, I appreciate it.
I also think that a position maybe could be created, maybe shared between a few towns, a floater who's just in charge of helping, basically do a little bit of what Rick Degon does and just be a Zoom assistant, maybe, 5 hours a week in Barre, 10 hours a week in Hubbardston or whatever, create a position like that, shared across a few towns. That could be a solution. I think it'll be just a learning curve when Zoom starts, but Zoom is pretty easy. There's so many tutorials and resources out there that people can just watch. I mean, especially if we make sure that every one of the boards and commissions gets the right little tutorials. I mean, it's pretty simple, basic stuff. So I don't think this is a challenge we can't.
And if the
solve.
town,
Well,
if the town
I think
decides.
you know as well, Zoom can be set up in multiple ways by the host. So
But
you
if
can
the
have
town-
a panel and then everybody else, or you can just have a free-for-all that you just manage based on who you want talking and not. Not necessarily having shareability, but that's the issue that most of these people are gonna run into is,
Having the
how do
gap.
I shut this person up?
Yeah, but
Well,
one-
yeah,
hold
one
on,
of those things
hold
can
on,
be
hold on,
solved.
hold on, please.
No, I'm just,
Oh,
that's
no,
my
please, please,
concern.
please. We want to see what happens when we get to town meeting. If the town decides we're going to record it and we're going to pay Rick Deegan extra money, then we don't need Zoom and extra people. Rick Deegan's going to tune it in and we're going to have it paid for, whatever it costs. And they're going to have to balance that expense for Rick Deegan and the cameras versus the expense of hiring personnel to do this. But this is why I say we'll see in June what the town wants to do with it. And, see what the satisfaction is, what kind of troubles we're having. We'll know by June where we really sit. We'll know before town meeting what we have to do, and which way we have to move with it.
My suggestion is, what can you do between now and April when you actually have to start, rather than waiting till June to find out it all
I
failed?
think we should be doing some of
That's my
some of
point.
the things that you suggested.
Do our best to have the
Yes.
department heads in, or someone from each group come in and be trained.
And not even
And,
be trained yet, but to get some ideas from them about how they feel this would work at their board level. Because that's we know what works for us, but I don't necessarily know what might work for the Conservation Commission or the Planning Board. And I don't mean to just
Or the
say,
Parks and Recs committee,
yeah.
again.
and,
See,
and the debate at
do you know
town meeting,
how
if we're
many
gonna have all
boards,
those committees do it or
commissions
not.
we actually have? Do you know the total quantity of boards
I
and
don't.
committees?
Lots.
Dozens.
Yeah.
And only about 1 dozen of those dozens actually has any support.
That's
So,
what's-
and that's where, like,
And the debate
I'm
is whether or not we
concerned
continue
what you're
with the
saying.
bylaw as it is. If we want to modify the bylaw and go back to limited committees as well, and not necessarily saying we're gonna have to record all the committees. That was something that we changed on the meeting floor, that when you look at the logistics of it, is it really necessary? Does anybody really want to see or record what's happening at Parks and Recs? I don't know. But that's, once again, those are town meeting questions to have discussions. let the people get involved and see what they really want of this before we go too far any direction with it. But for now, the deadline's coming, people need to record, and they can certainly look to the office for, for answers to get it going, to get recording. Clearly, we don't know how to do it.
Well,
That
we
doesn't-
know- We know how to do it if we.
I know, but
have-
it doesn't mean we couldn't be trained and learn, and we are fortunate we haven't had to. And, there's gotta be some way that, people can figure it out. I don't think it's overly difficult, but
I don't wanna say it's overly difficult, but the other thing you gotta be careful of is, how many people do you wanna give access to your Zoom account?
it may be a
You
matter
wanna
of,
give 40 people access to this Zoom account.
and I don't know how long it takes Jessica to set up a meeting, but it may be a matter of, everybody has to list their meetings 3 days ahead of time publicly, and they have to be posted. So once they're posted, it shouldn't be too difficult for Jessica to line up a Zoom at the posted time, and they just have to sign into it.
Well, you have to understand, you
Right.
can't just do what people do in small towns and small school districts. They just take one person, they say, well, she can do it, or he can do it, she can do it, and you end up having so many responsibilities of trivial nature on individuals who have substantive responsibilities. So, I don't think it's worthy of any further conversation tonight until we really get those department heads in a room and have some serious conversations about what, when, and how.
So you understand my concern. Thank you for listening.
Thank you.
I appreciate the conversation.
I'm looking at a sticky note.
Uh-oh.
Uh-oh.
What had to be signed in black ink only?
The warrant?
I didn't know how to be, I didn't make that note. That must have been from Ellen.
Well, I may have to re-sign, I signed with a blue pen.
Well, we have 2 in black anyway, so it's
Okay,
valid.
You got that.
So we have 2 in black.
Okay, I don't count that.
I'm just saying, if for some reason it doesn't work, you can either sign over it,
I
or,
didn't see the note.
I just wasn't paying attention to what it was stuck to, it's just a.
Okay.
Oh, well.
Yeah, that's the first I've heard that they need to be signed in black ink only.
Well, they are all signed. You want them left upstairs, or, I don't have my key. We can leave them.
I've got my key.
Under the door.
Well,
I've got my
Dale's
key.
got his key. So we'll put this upstairs, we sign the MOU, get that right?
Yep.
And that's signed as well, so we'll put those both upstairs. And that gets us full. Anyone else have any public comment?
Yeah, I'd like to continue with the conversation I had earlier about this machine, that I wrote letters and asked people and discussed it with many, and it's a little offensive sitting back here, and when you listen to it on the screen, it's difficult because you hear the sound all the time. So I believe I spoke to Steve Femino, just as a point of information and discussion, and I think the size of that could fit in the hallway in that area, just as you go in towards the elevator on the right-hand side. There seems to be an open area.
So, Jessica, is the computer stuff running the corner, that's for the camera system, is it, or
Correct.
does it run
Yes.
24/7, or does it just run during the meetings?
It's always on.
Okay, is it something that could be possibly even boxed in with a petition wall that would stop the sound from directly accessing the room?
Well, we may be able to relocate it.
We might be too, but it's, they're all terminated cables that are fixed length, so to
What's
splice into
what's behind
cables
that?
is,
What's behind that door?
Yeah, I've had conversations with Rick before about not moving anything in the
Outside.
room, because if you start
I don't know.
hitting the cables wrong, then you could cut off the system.
Right. Well, if you could check on them, see if there's something we can do. Can it be petitioned, will it overheat? I mean, can we section it off during meetings? So, that might be enough to stop the direct sound coming into the room. It would go up more, we have acoustic ceiling, should deaden it. That might be enough to make it not so insufferable.
I can hear you guys fine.
But,
I've never noticed it on the recordings either.
nor have I, but I understand it is louder, and if you're sitting back next to it, it's certainly loud. We can hear it, and I assume it's louder when you're back there. But,
It's just the cooling fans too that you're hearing.
right, and that's why I said you can't close it off too tight, you're gonna overheat the electronics, but we might be able to do something as simple as petition wall that may knock the sound down, 50% or better, which will make it tolerable. But we'll look into that. Anyone else have any other comments?
Thank you very much for listening.
Yeah, anything else?
It could also be, maybe there could be something done with the microphones here, so even if that doesn't change, the feed that people listen to at home might be a little
Well, it's
clearer.
also, he's complaining it's loud sitting beside it back there. And when the room is full and people have to sit there, it is loud. If you go back and sit next to it, I understand that. So we'll see what we can do about that. Jessica, you have anything else you need from us before we
Excuse me, there's one more.
depart?
The sewer cost.
The sewer costs.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Would we be able to get like a nice explanation of that
Okay.
paper at some point before we spend this?
I had a discussion with Jason Pimento about that, and we had a bond that has come to its end about 2 years ago, and that's now producing $100 and some odd thousand a year of excess funds. So we've already put $200 and some odd thousand aside. It's the intent that whatever they take on here will be covered under that same dollar amount.
Oh,
He
I'm
indica-
just being nosy.
No, he
You know,
indicated, it's important, we went to discuss it.
Yeah.
They've already undergone a 1 cent pay rise, and they're gonna have 2 more 1 cent hikes. So we'll have to have a total of a 3 cent, I assume that's per 100 cubic foot is how they bill. Raise and expense, which isn't too huge. And they've assured us they can show us all the numbers, and I asked them to come tonight.
Well, they have to show
But
something.
first of all, it costs the town itself nothing, will be covered by the enterprise fund. That means only the people paying water and sewer will be paying towards this.
Well, we're not actually
Um,
sure of that. We don't know what our reimbursement rate's gonna be.
Dr. Marshall, please let me continue with,
I'll let you continue,
I'm
but-
telling you what Jason has told me that I can bring to you for the meeting tonight. It will be covered out of the enterprise fund, and the payments will be covered out of the enterprise fund. And he has assured us that with the next 2 1 cent increases, that it's designed that the money coming in will be sufficient to cover the expense of that bond throughout its life.
The
But
nosy part I'm being is, we have to do this work because some of the stuff is falling apart because it's 30 years old, so
Yes.
we replace that valve.
we have to
It's
do
like-
that, and the
Yeah.
timing is because there's a grant that's coming out,
Yeah.
and they're waiting for the grant money to be released, which they expect to happen very soon. And we are currently on the top of that grant list. So if the money is released before we have this approved, they go to someone else on the list, we get bumped back down to the bottom list and have to make our way up. So we're trying to have special town to approve this amount to borrow. There's no intention of them to borrow this amount. We're just approving that amount of loan that says the town is committed to paying for it. That makes us eligible for the grant. When they get the grant funding, then they'll know what, if any, we have to borrow to actually make this project happen. And what they do borrow against, whatever they need to borrow, will be covered by the enterprise fund. So it should not raise any expense any more than they already have planned for anybody, and it shouldn't cost the town itself in our budget anything.
What's a typical, when you say 1 cent per, what was it?
I believe it's 100 cubic foot is the billing amount.
So it's 1 cent per 100 cubic feet?
Yes.
Okay, I don't know.
So there's been one, there'll be 2 more, so we total of 3 cents per 100 cubic foot
Okay,
increase.
but I just wonder, how does that impact the typical homeowner? And-
If I paid more attention to my bill, I could tell you, but I want to say it was something around $3 for water sewer combined, I
Okay.
think.
So
it's-
we do have the engineers are supposed to put together a relatively detailed presentation at town meeting. I am hopeful that I'm gonna also be meeting with Tom, George, and Jay in between time, because I just wanna ask them specific questions. The concern that I have, obviously, is as we struggle with the economics in our country and across, the cost of a bond is much different than 3 years ago they were given away. I used to say, borrow the money now. The municipal bond was, so cheap. That may not be the case. But our bank people can obviously be at the town meeting as well and describe what the bond market is like. Because Barre does not have a bond rating, we may have to pay what they call an insurance premium on the bond. We may not, but, so that would be some questions that could cost the town a little more money than just the 6.5 million. So I'm only concerned about doing the kind of due diligence,
Diligence.
that Greg would have asked and demanded of me as superintendent of school. I expect that I want the same information available to the town. Because I sit way up on Pleasant Street and I said, well, whatever they have to pay, that's easy for me, but it's just not the right thing to do. We really need to go into it understanding all the potential costs, not only in the first 3 years, but 5 years and 6 years and 7 years down the road, because I don't know what the length of the bond will be, whether it be 30 years?
I would guess 30, but once again,
The life of.
I can give you the information that he gave me as best he did. I asked him to come here tonight. I was very clear that I wanted him to come here tonight, and I wanted this explained prior, to this getting to town meeting, so maybe they'll come to our next meeting.
Okay.
We still have a meeting coming up next, maybe they can make that meeting and give some explanation. Be, but 6th, will it be? March 6th.
Seventh.
7th, sorry about that.
I mean, the thing is.
The 7th will be the meeting, and they can also come to that meeting, as long as they come to a meeting before we have our town meeting. And the 7th would be great, if they come to the 7th, and then finance can discuss it on the 10th, or they do it Wednesday or Thursday? Thursday, isn't it? They typically,
Yeah, well, Wednesday, right?
Wednesday?
Tuesday.
Well,
Tuesday.
I don't think anybody.
but then finance could have their, have their vote as if it's favorable, unfavorable with the knowledge of what it's about, so.
Yeah.
My guess would be they're not here tonight, they intend to come next week, I would hope, and we'll get a better explanation of everything. Why it's needed, what type of things being done, how it does impact, and, what the bond, what the bond's expected to cost, real cost, and hopefully we get all that. The only thing we can do is agree that if our sewer commission tells us this needs to be done, we can place it on the warrant for the town to vote on it, and the town will have its vote. And if the town doesn't have enough information, it's not shame on us. We're trying. If they don't have enough information, they vote it down, then it's not gonna happen.
Initially, we had hoped to be able to do this at the annual town meeting, where you usually have a larger group of people to hear the information. But ultimately, due to the timeframe of the grant, we had to do it now in order to get in line for the grant. So that's why we're doing it at the special, and we'll make sure we get a quorum out, enough people to run the special town meeting. Hopefully, there'll be a lot of interest in this, because this is a big bond for us.
I would think.
And
Because it's like a fire truck, if it's falling apart, you can see that.
Yeah,
And
you can't
everybody
see
knows
this.
that, it's like, oh, that fire truck's rusted.
Mhm.
But you don't really see the pipes underground or what's going on at the plant.
Yeah.
It's
and
like,
this
oh,
would
it's
cover about
32
10
years
fire
old.
trucks, so yeah.
Yeah, and it's been, this sewer system's been around a long time, like since the 80s.
I think it's been in 30 years,
80s,
yeah.
I think. And so I'm hopeful that we will have all the information that we need to make a recommendation, and obviously the town needs to, we want to be good stewards. I know that the sewer commission wants to be good stewards, so hopefully working together will get a lot of information out to folks so they make an informed decision.
We're as eager as you are.
Yeah,
I
And the
would,
sewer system's a value to the town.
absolutely.
I would be surprised if they don't come to the next meeting and explain prior. I really think they will, and I hope they do.
And the town of Barre has been very supportive. In the first time we put in this sewer system, 25% was going to be paid, by the users, and 75% was spread around the rest of the town who would never use it. And being a non-user, I was thrilled to do it, because it makes our community safer, better, and it doesn't, if businesses want to come to the community, or people who want to be on the line to, because it's really tough at the center of Barre to dig in that ledge and make a sewer system, so I'm thrilled that it's happening and being upgraded, and we're not trying to be negative Nancy, we're just trying to say, people really need, because the first instance, people go, I'm not moving for that, my tax rate's gonna go up. Understanding the enterprise fund, as Greg has explained it, is important, so we're eager to get the information.
Okay,
Thank you.
Thank you.
look for the appropriate motion.
So we move the adjourn?
Yeah. I'll second that motion.
Motion to second to adjourn. Any further discussion before we do so? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Jessica, when we bring the warrant upstairs, I'll have